Our next subclass is the College of Adventurers for bards. So this would be a bard who gets quite a lot of abilities that will help in the role-playing aspects of the game. You can see here, they're adventurers, they're travelers moving around. Quite interesting. And the second, there's two subclasses for each. So here we have the Bard College of the Requiems. Right, so the Bard College of the Requiem is here. A little bit more morbid, perhaps, a little bit more macabre, if you will. The Dance of the Dead being one of their abilities. Stir the bones, pluck the heartstrings. So you can imagine what this guy will be doing. Probably making the dead dance. Okay, then you have our clerics. This is the cleric divine domain of the eldritch domain. Eldritch. So as I was saying, everything is tainted and with a touch of shadow. The eldritch domain, getting access to all of the spells you see here. You'll also see the book includes a whole loot of new spells that will combine well with these classes. So Eldritch Domain. Watching Critical Role right now as well. 3rd season. I think Laudna could be somebody that would work really well with this this campaign book. I think the guys there really enjoy this Grim Hollow. They've advertised it a few times on their show, and I did see in the campaign guide, maybe you can confirm this, but it did say M. Mercer. So I'm not sure if he was one of the original contributors to the Kickstarter, but interesting to know. Eldritch Domain Cleric for perhaps Laudna and Critical Role, I'm not sure. And here you get more abilities that they'll be using with that Eldritch spell casting. The second cleric is the Inquisition Domain, the Inquisitor. Again, are they good guys or are they more the bad guys? Castinean province there. The Inquisitor could be like a mad, religious zealot. They're able to detect magic, detect if people are lying, track down spellcasters and annihilate them, or at least bring them to the dungeons. So like you're gonna play this, but in the party, maybe you're tracking down the good guys. Maybe it's an evil campaign. I don't know. It would be interesting to have one of these characters in the party and see how everybody reacts. Then we move on to our druids, and we have 2 druids for you here. We got the Circle of Blood, and here you'll see a bunch of spells a little bit later on. But these guys are using all kinds of blood magic. They have also your standard spells. They get Hold Person, Sense Lifeblood. They get Blood Bond, Sanguine Podette, Circle of Sacrifice. So all these things are like, they're using their hit dice to do damage with blood or affect other people's blood, make it pop, boil, explode. Very nasty druids, but it's cool too. I mean, a lot of the game is some combat, and it again, you want to have maybe that the Diablo Necromancer recently in that using blood magic. Then we have the Cleric of Mutation. Let me just say that again. We have the Cleric of Mutation. This one would also combine very well with a transformation we're going to see later on. But they are, as you can see, just fully immersed in nature. Probably never even been to a city before. And they, what was it? Game of Thrones, they had the little fae people, the fairy people, very connected into the Feywild, the woods, and using roots and entangling vines and so on. So that's your druids. And we continue on to the fighters. The fighters, you have the Bullwalk Warrior. This is your upfront, heavy, big shield fighter that's going to be protecting everybody. You use them close to another maybe melee unit, and they're going to be able to jump in the way of attacks, absorb damage, rebuff themselves, and then use their halt the assault. Sorry about that. Halt the assault. They have these things where they're getting hit and then they get powered up and then they're going to just unleash their fury. So they definitely want to track the majority of the attacks. And the other fighter is the Living Crucible. The Living Crucible. I love this one when I read about it. We have seen in Arcane recently, you had this character who was missing an arm and they're just getting injected with these potions that bulk them up and give them power. And then they're kind of drained later. But that's the story of these guys. Also kind of like The Witcher, you know, they're quaffing a potion to get powered up and do combat. But then there's the downside of the hangover from these wicked potions. Plus they're getting like purple eyes, purplish blue blood. But I think it's worth it. Here you see their little potion set. So very cool. And our next class is the Way of the Laden Crown, Monk. So I never thought really dark fantasy and thought monk. Oh yeah, dark fantasy monk. But they do have two monk classes, the Laden Crown. This is a monk that's definitely more into some infiltration, more into the bureaucracy, into spying, perhaps a spy between the Ostoyan Empire and the Burak Empire and so on. They've got some psionic powers. A lot of things here I could use definitely with... there's a race that are fighting the Illithid. What are they called? The Mind Flayers. But they would fit very well with this monk class because they're using a lot of psionic powers. Psionic crush the throat, psionic throw the people against the wall, psionic leap, and all of this sort of thing. So very cool. Put it in the description below if you know what kind of race I'm thinking about. Which we wouldn't normally use. They're not in Etheris, but if they came from outer space... There you got it. The Way of the Laden Crown. And this one I thought was quite funny. This is a monk called the Way of Pride. And these guys are getting empowered by feeling like their ego has been insulted. They're kind of these narcissists that just get furious if anybody talks down on them or insults them or humiliates them. And that's why they have the Way of Pride monk. Also a good link into a fiend pact or something along those lines, as they're, you know, they've got this pride that's an issue. And we go on to the next one here, the Oath of Pestilence. Oath of Pestilence. You see what I meant by, like, are these the heroes or what's going on? They could be working towards a good task to solve some problem in Etheris, but at the end of the day, the common person is going to see this Paladin Oath of Pestilence and see some of the spells he's casting, like Flash Fever, Stinking Cloud, Blight, Confusion, Contagion, the Insect Plague, and say, well, I don't think we're going to have him on the front lines with the angels and fighting the demons of hells. No, well, but you know, that's the DM and the party coming together to think, oh, how can this story work, having this strange character. If you have some ideas, put them down in the links below, because all of these look super interesting to play. Look at that aura of the rampant sickness, the terror of the disgusting resilience, and the plague bringer. Yeah, master of puppets, harbinger of sorrow, the Oath of Pestilence, and the Oath of Zeal. Once again, bringing it back to Castilian provinces, this Oath of Zeal to go after any heretic wizards and spellcasters. These guys also, way back when I was playing World of Warcraft, you had the Scarlet Crusade. There you have it, the Oath of Zeal. how they would get dropped into the party and have to work together with the party. Could be another interesting story to tell. Tenets of Zeal are some of their abilities. Channel Divinity, they have the Aura of Clarity, the Compel, a Confession. Again, with that Inquisition Cleric, you got the Inquisition Cleric and the Oath of Zeal. Maybe you make a whole party that are just going after heretics and see how that goes. Apocalyptic Revelation. It's an apocalyptic revelation. Oh my goodness. See, here we have this angel and these heroes coming forth. They're probably fighting these guys, though. That's what I think. This one here is the Green Reaper. Ranger. He's in our party. This Green Reaper is a ranger that's built a lot around poisons. Everything has to do with poison. They build up a resistance to poison. They're using poison arrows. They get some spells like Cloud Kill. They get some others, Bestow Curse, Hold Person. And there is a background as well, which we might see later, where you've been afflicted by the plague that's going through Etheris. And this character had been afflicted by the plague and then survived it. We'll see that a little bit later on here. And that kind of ties into this background of how they became a Green Reaper ranger, because they're just resistant to these diseases and these poisons and what have you. Look at that. Toxic Tradecraft, Poison Control. So some of the things you'll get here, you can just take a brief perusal. Remember, you're in the game shop. It's a little smelly, it's a little funky, and you're just perusing through the book. The guy's looking at you a little awkward. Hey, are you going to buy it, or what's the deal? And that's what we're doing here. We're checking out books on Bocho's Brother channel. I got a surprise for you too, because there's so many. I think there's about 36 classes here. So I don't know, do the math. Maybe I'm wrong, but there's a lot. Vermin Lord. This is this ranger that just has these swarms of rats that he can send to attack people or freak them out or spy, or, you know, everything to do with rats, living in the sewers. We have the book coming out from the Dungeon Dudes as well. The name escapes me at the moment. You know, there's a lot of information to keep in your head when you start with this Dungeons and Dragons game, but let me know again. It gives you guys a lot of homework too. Let me know what the book is that I did a Kickstarter for Dungeon Dudes in the comments below. But Vermin Lord, very cool ranger. And I just want, on a side note, say this guy, I think he appears in this book I just got here called Kith and Kin. Let me put that here there. Kith and Kin. I've only just started the book a little bit, but Vex is being chased by one of these Vermin Lords. Rats are scurrying around everywhere. Very cool. Again, I'm not sure if these guys are in touch with each other, if they're using these materials in Critical Role, but it seems like it, because it's on point. I want to make one of these. I'm going to make one this weekend. The next one is the Rogue. The Highway Rider. The Highway Rider is this rogue that is, what was that? Penny Dreadful was a cool show. If you haven't seen it, check out Penny Dreadful. It's a musketeer on a horse. They're leaping off the horse, leaping side to side. You'll definitely want kind of a horse and be raiding caravans and what have you along the road. And where they have these elite horse trainers is definitely in Castinean, as well as in Charnault. Maybe you have a French highway rider. We will see. And our next one is the Rogue of Misfortune. The Misfortunebringer. The Misfortunebringer is kind of this creepy gypsy with the evil eye. You know, you get the evil eye, and then you're cursing your opponents. You're causing them to have to roll with disadvantage. You're, you know, messing with their minds. You could also be kind of like a voodoo shaman kind of character, but Misfortunebringer is all along those lines. Definitely. Let me see if there's any Steel Luck, for example. The evil eye. See, it's right there in the description. And here are all the different curses you can choose. And we're on to the sorcerer. The sorcerers. The haunted. Now, the haunted would be a great one. This is a sorcerer who's come near death or maybe even died and been brought back. So again, combining with either that transformation, the specter transformation, or the race we saw earlier in the book, where you're very much phantasmal. You can even do things like blink, see invisibility, phase out, the unseen servant. So everything that a ghost might do, there you go. The movie Ghost, haunted, sorcerer. Then we have, oh, I love this one, the Wretched bloodline. Did you ever play Magic and get that card called the Wretched? I just think that's a super cool name. I use it sometimes when I play online games. The Wretched bloodline is using a lot of this kind of blood magic. So you got the blood ties, the bad luck charm, the Wretched curse, the what's this, share burden, and the last one is terrifying visage. Sorry, this one's not so much into blood magic. This one is someone who's a descendant of some family that has been cursed, and by no fault of their own, they've got this curse, maybe from a hag, maybe from an aboleth, maybe from something, and it's caused them to get their superpowers, and they're able to sometimes use that curse for their own benefit, but at the same time it is giving them some boons as well. So, Wretched bloodline. Tragic stories to be told in your campaign with some of these classes. I think we're definitely going to be breaking this video up into several, because at the end of the day, we're halfway through the book and we got so much to work through. Let's check out the next one, our Warlock. The Warlock. The first vampire. That's super cool. Your patron, right? You've got patrons. It could be a fiend. It could be a fae. It could be the old one from Cthulhu. But this one, your patron was this powerful vampire. And I'll tell you what, I bet the story is that later on in the campaign, you can get the vampire transformation. And you're getting all of these vampiric abilities, like the false life. You get the gaseous form later on, already at third level, being able to turn to gas, turn into a bat, a wolf. Super cool. I want to play one. But then we come here to the next one, which is the Parasite Warlock. Now, I think this one's just about the most grotesque of all the classes you could play, and how you're going to fit into a group of adventurers going into the tavern and lollygagging around. I'm not sure. You can see from the tentacles coming out, probably an aberration transformation coming on here later as well. But this parasite, you're actually a parasite inside a human body. So you're like, don't tell anybody else in the party, but you're being controlled by this parasite inside of you. And yeah, and so you stick a little tentacle in somebody's head, you mess them up with little parasites, you are sending these nasty, creepy creatures, you're siphoning other people's spells. So you're very alien. I don't know, maybe it's from space, maybe it's from the depths. The Parasite Warlock, and they have this thing where later on, if you're killed and resurrected, like your little parasite bursts out of your chest, and then your body dies, and then you go, and if you find another host within a certain amount of time, you know some things are going to happen there, and maybe you start as a different race, but you're the same Parasite Warlock inside that other race. Are you kidding me? My goodness, that's just wretched. So those warlocks, those are wicked. Lots of evilness there. And we continue on to the wizards, and here we have the this wizard here, which is the, what is that? Plagueis Doctor. The Plague Doctor. Sorry, with that font is a little tricky. The Plague Doctor. Yeah, yeah. In the Burok Empire, right? You got everybody fighting off these different plagues that are all over Etheris, and this is a doctor who's using lots of potions and handing out potions to party members and can put spells inside the potion. So they quaff the potion, and then you got the potion of invisibility, or you got the potion of uh, fog, whatever. And they prepare their spells by making potions and concoctions, and can hopefully maybe find some cures also, should any of you come down with a curse or a some sort of a disease, right? And then here we have the school of sangromancy, this wizard, who is very much to do with blood, sanguine. Any of you guys playing Legends of Runeterra? You know that character, there's a vampire named Vladimir, and all his abilities are like drain the blood of the others around you and then shoot like blood bolts at people and turn your blood into this blood sword. That's definitely what's happening here. Make it rain blood and stuff like that. It's nasty. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart or the queasy, but it definitely brings some awesome imagery to combat. And if you're not going to play this as a player character or get along with a party, DMs make some bad guys using these characters. And you thought it was over. But as you know, the Artificer class is off limits to all 5e expansion books. So this comes as a PDF, which you have to get and print separately, but it's part of this player's guide, okay? And that's why we get the Artificer class, subclasses, which are just super cool. Look at this guy. We got the needle, the little gadgets, the coins, teeth. What are these Artificers going to be doing? Well, you have the Machine Cultist. So this class would be making their own automaton, weird dark horror machinations, and have a little companion that goes out and fights along with you, on your side. So Machine Cultist, that's just wicked. Maybe go into Avernus with the Machine Cultist and be doing stuff like a rigger, maybe make some sort of vehicle that you could get around in with this guy. Some hot air balloon you could fly. So that's very cool. They get vehicles, see, and different spells, but everything always with that grim dark feel to it, right? You can get the Infernal Dread, you can get the apocalyptic metamorphosis, so on there. And then the other Artificer is the Reanimator. That sounds like the old, horror films from the 80s and 90s. Reanimator. Don't have to go into too much about what this guy could do. He obviously is going to be creating Frankenstein-like creatures, bringing people back to life. And look at that. Here he's sewing some skin, different potions. Man, I think they must have had a Reanimator in Arcane, that one guy that was working on the bodies with the blue potions and stuff. So you got a Reanimator Artificer. Here's some of their stuff. Spark of Life, Reanimate Dead. See, it's obvious. And what is that? Enlivening Discharge. Enlivening Discharge. What the heck? Macabre modules. Macabre modules. I love it. Like, so which one of these would you not want to make? I mean, you obviously want to play all of them. And then here we get some, what is this? Artificer infusions. All right, so yeah, getting some cool potions and stuff going here with the infusions of the Artificers. You can get some bionic arms. Whoa, wait a minute. You combine one of these guys with that fighter of the Crucible that was injecting stuff to get powered up. And then you got a pretty badass party. And here's some of the last information. The danger and the intrigue doesn't end here. Go to Ghostfire Gaming to check out more. So that concludes our classes. You know what? We're up to chapter 6. I'm going to stop it here. We're definitely going to be breaking this up into several videos because it's just too much goodness for one video. So pause it there, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.